Hi guys, Jonathan here with, you guessed it, that's if you were playing along on social media, it's another C96 Broomhandle, or is it? Because not really a broom handle, but we're coming to that. So because we've covered a few of these now, we are going to put together a playlist, so do check that out if you'd like to. But for now, what you've got here is a 6-shot C96. And I think a lot of people, well, this isn't just a 6-shot, so shorter magazine for sure. And let's immediately bring in the classic 10-shot. If you say C96, everyone's going to think of this, if they don't think of Han Solo. Short 6-round mag on the bottom, still integral, there's no detachable magazine, well, not commercially and not at this point. So both fixed magazines. So I think there's something iconic about this look. Of course there is. But the way this short magazine gives you this protruding, kind of balanced trigger guard look here, I really like the look of it. And it does change the characteristics a little bit as well. But it loses you 4 shots. So bear that in mind as we proceed. Now, it isn't just a short magazine on this one. As you can see, again, from this, this is contemporary. They're both what we call a flat side, circa 1900. This one was actually made in 1900, with the so-called large ring hammer. So they are very contemporary in design, but you can see it isn't just the short mag. This has a much shorter barrel of a slightly different shape as well, and a different shaped grip. So we'll put this one away. And we'll come back to the star of the show here. Now, because of the short grip and the short barrel that tends to be associated with the surviving 6-shots, I think people assume that it's all one thing and it's designed to be, well, one term that's in currency with collectors is officer's model. And I think what they're thinking of there is not just the mag, but the short grip and the short barrel, because it makes the whole thing a lot, well, substantially lighter and quite a lot smaller if you're wearing it in a standard flap holster or something, which you have to do with this one because it doesn't have a slot for a holster stock, the iconic Mauser holster stock that it can both live in and have attached to it for use as a little pistol carbine. Doesn't have that. But that's a bit misleading because right from the start, 1896, or the first ones weren't sold until spring 1897, but still, right from the start, the drawings that exist show, and the descriptions show a 6-shot as an option. So you could always have a 6-shot, a 10-shot, or a 20-shot model. It's just that, skip to the end, the 10-shot is what everyone wants. And it makes sense. It's a balance of weight, cumbersome nature, and firepower. So yes, the 10-shot's very big and clunky by modern pistol standards, or even by Luger standards, but it gives you 10 shots with that small caliber but very, very penetrating round. It's a powerful round for the day coming out of, even from this shorter barrel. So officer's model, somewhat valid, I think, because it does seem to come out of the US testing in 1902, where this is perhaps being marketed as an officer's configuration, but it doesn't start out that way. And indeed, you can find, in theory, 6 shots with long barrel or short barrel, with standard broom handle grip with slot and without slot, with this type of grip, and perhaps more, well, definitely more commonly, as this example has, yes, minor flex. We have 2 6-shots. This one's in sadly much worse condition. Hopefully we'll see some conservation one day. It is stable as it is. It's not getting any worse. But I show it to you because, well, we still have the large ring hammer, but we have here the milled panel design, again, standard to the large pistols as well. And we have the much more classic short, what's generally called a bolo grip. So it's shorter, it's more squared. It's not so much like a broom handle, but it isn't what's on this pistol on the desk here. But it is more common. If you search for 6-shots, you're going to find them typically with the milled frame, not the rarer flat side, with the short barrel and with the bolo grip. Quick word on bolo. So officer's model is arguably a period term, maybe. Bolo is a period term for Bolshevik, for the Russian Bolsheviks. It's not a period term for the pistol. It's maybe a 1940s onwards collector's word. There is an association that's valid, though, in that the Bolshevik, a typical Bolshevik, was buying or obtaining C96 pistols. And what was available in the 1920s? It was typically not the 6-shot. It was something like this. So the classic Bolo square grip, typically with the groove, the short barrel with the Luger-esque barrel end tip on there, which is a function of the barrel having been tapered down, I think, and they've then reinforced what might otherwise be a bit thin at the end with a similar shape to the Luger. But that's your classic Bolo as favoured by Bolsheviks. And the British slang term for Bolshevik was Bolo. So that's the explanation there. But this is positively ordinary compared to what we have here. The other options, sights. So again, common to all of the variants. You could order one. Now this makes a lot of sense for our friend here. With short range combat style pistol sights, so much better than any kind of adjustable sight for a pistol of this nature. Might be able to just get a bit of a look there at the sight picture. Pretty standard for the period, a bit like a 1911 or a Luger. Just a V-shaped notch, outlined with a U-shaped cutout to sort of help center your eye. Much more typical was this something like the 500 meter sliding tangent sight, or even the 1,000 meter version of that that's on the normal, or is more commonly on the full-length barrel version. But you could order it, or you could order your pistol with any of those sight options. So you will see them with adjustable tangent sights, as indeed our other 6-shot has. But that Bolo has a 500 meter. This Bolo 6-shot has a 1,000 meter sight on it. So much for Bolo. So Mauser didn't call it the Bolo, didn't call it the Broomhandle. They didn't even call it the C96, believe it or not. They called it the Rücklaufpistole, the Zehnladerpistole, the Armeepistole, army pistol, or the Pistole or Pistol 7.63. Those are the only terms used. Oh, they did append N for Neue for the new model, what we now call the Model 1930. All gets a bit confusing. Suffice to say, almost none of the names we call these things were in use by Mauser at the time. So, flat side, rare. Ring hammer, relatively rare. This style of sight wouldn't have been rare on this type of on this variant, but is now. That style of barrel, less common. What makes this really scarce is this curved, almost revolver style grip here, as mentioned, without the slot. And it really does change the silhouette, literally, in the case of our social media game, the silhouette of the pistol. Really makes it would be more familiar, perhaps, to a user of a revolver. It's slimmer. Well, the classic Broomhandle grip is always slim at the top, but it feels slimmer in the hand because it sort of respects the anatomy of the hand a bit better, frankly. A bit more ergonomic, you might say. Fits the hand very well. Not really chunky enough for modern standards. That's incredibly narrow for the index finger thumb grip. Of course, with the modern high grip we like to use, that you're going to get that classic C96 hammer bite. Even worse with this, I think, because there's a bit less real estate, as it were, to get hold of. So this is really designed for that classic bent wrist, target shooting, hold. Now, with that big old ring hammer on there, you can't use the sights unless the thing's cocked, which you might argue is a useful feature, because if you try to bring it up to the aim and you can't even see your sights, well, you're not onto a winner there, so you would then cock it. Oh, and we still have the safety, the early pattern safety, which is down for on, so can't be fired, and up for safety off, ready to fire. Later on, that would change a couple of times. But at this era, we still have that style of safety. Now, in case you're wondering, I'm sure some of you know, the 10-shot, in fact, anyone who's played Battlefield 1 knows this, the 10-shot is loaded with a stripper clip. So 10-shot, slightly curved clip containing 10 rounds. You push them all in, you take the clip out, bolt goes home, you've got 10 shots. You're probably wondering how on earth you load this thing. Is it loaded singly? Well, it's not a good idea to load this singly, because as soon as you put one round in, that bolt's going to want to give you broomhandle finger, as I will call it. No, as you can see from there, this does in fact take a stripper clip. You could load it just about with 6 shots stripped off a 10-round clip. Not ideal, but Mauser did in fact sell 6-round stripper clips, which are scarce. We don't have any. I think I saw one sell online for 500 euros for a little strip of metal. So we'd like one, but we might not get hold of one. So very much stripper clip fed. We do have a slightly different retention system for the magazine floor plate here, protruding into the trigger guard. So it's not like there's a push button version as well that's rare. This isn't quite that, but it does mean that you can push down from within the trigger guard and it will slide forward, and you can then remove your follower to facilitate cleaning, or if you get some sort of a stoppage, you can clear it that way. But of course, being a 6-shot, the little spring is shorter. And then we just clip that back in. And it'll pop back in. So with the standard 10-shot, you've got to get your Mauser cleaning tool, or maintenance tool, which is also used for removing the firing pin, push down and push out the plate. This doesn't need a tool to remove the floor plate, which is interesting. Now, markings-wise, this thing has standard Mauser marking, so Waffenfabrik Mauser, Obendorf AN for Amneckar. Tiny little engraving there on what we would call the Knox form, this angled surface here. And we have the serial number, 21685, on this flat, and that's it. Normally this thing would be covered in proof marks. Well, maybe not covered. Oh, sorry, it does have the little cluster of 3 very hard to make out inspection marks. These are factory, assembly marks, I believe they are. So these are relevant to the factory and basically nobody else. No proof marks, which is surprising. Germany really went in for proof marks, and your typical C96 has got quite a few. This has none, which is indicative, we think, and a couple of specialists agree with us, that this is in fact a military test sample. So at some point I need to bury myself in the archive and see if I can find, we probably won't find any serial number specific reference at that date, but we might just find reference to military testing of a 6-shot, maybe. But I did go looking for my own little book on the C96, published by Osprey, and I didn't find anything then. But I've decided I'm going to go and have another look just in case I've learned something new about the archive and find it somewhere else. So this thing did feature in German military testing in 1901 to see what they might end up adopting. Of course, we know that ultimately the army went with the P08 Luger. 40 C96s submitted for testing. We had 25 10 shots and 15 6 shots. So there was still a reasonable assumption, might be the wrong word, but the expectation that the German Armed Forces, or the GPK, might adopt both. Because what we ended up with was private purchase by officers, as indeed took place in Britain as well, quite extensively, in the end of the 19th century, turning over into the new century. But then going into the First World War, the standard issue pistol being the naval P04 Luger, the army P08 Luger. Some limited military use of the 10-shot C96, and then of course the famous Red 9mm C96, mainly because there just weren't enough Lugers to go around. So the C96 does become a German standard military pistol, but it's a substitute standard. The 6-shot, though, just doesn't get adopted by basically anyone. There will have been some private purchases by military officers, for sure. I don't have a reference of any to hand, but I'm sure it did happen. On the other hand, this being a new sort of whiz-bang self-loading pistol, you're going to go for the 10-shot, aren't you? Why would you not want 10 shots, especially given the perception of 7.63 as a small bore cartridge? You're going to feel like you need more than just the 6 shots of a revolver. Advantages? Well, I mean, it's still about the size and weight of a revolver, so you're not really gaining too much there, other than thickness. So this thing is much, well, maybe not much, significantly narrower than a revolver of the era. And if you had any requirement for wearing it on the hip or somewhere else, not really very common in that era, then it's going to be flatter. If there was a requirement for some sort of concealed carry in those days, which there wasn't really, not militarily anyway, maybe it could have been a detective favourite, something like that. But as far as we know, it never really caught on. There were only ever 1,884 6 shots sold. Now that's not insignificant in the scheme of things. We've had things on the series before that far fewer of those have been made or sold. But it's a drop in the ocean compared to the many, many 10 shots that were sold. Significantly more than the 20 shots, though. So it's okay, but it's not really... Your revolver stick in the muds are going to stick with their revolver if they have the choice. Your self-loading pistol aficionados are going to want 10 shots. That's what it comes down to, I think. The advantage is not significant enough. But they really do look rather wonderful. By the way, for a deeper dive into the C96, but also all of the other products made at Mauser, and a load of behind-the-scenes stuff on the setup of the factory and how stuff was designed and produced, some amazing pictures, please do check out Mauro Baudino and Gerben Van Vlimmeren's brilliant book, Paul Mauser. We have details of that in the description. And we also recently had Mauro on site delivering a great lecture on the C96 in particular. So you can find the link for that in the description as well. Thank you for watching, guys. We do appreciate it. As always, check out our various social media channels. And if you feel moved to, we do have a donation link on the website as well. In terms of what's going on, we still have our Reloaded exhibition here in Leeds. That's until the end of June. And also in June, but early June, 6th of June, in time for D-Day, we will be having, we'll be opening an exhibition at our Fort Nelson site, which for those of you who don't know, is down on the south coast and is well worth a look at any time of year. But if you go in June, you'll be seeing some material dedicated to D-Day, which we're excited about. But we'll see you here again next week.